All right, good evening, Yorktown. My name is Matt Slater, Town Supervisor. Thank you for joining us. This is another meeting of the Yorktown Coalition on Community Safety and Engagement. This is I believe it's our second work group meeting. Listening session. It's a listening session. It's our second listening session. We had a work group meeting last week where Chief Noble provided more education and a great presentation on some of the policies of the police department. But I'm going to ask everyone, if we can, to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll begin that way. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
And for the pledge.
Public for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And if you can all join me in a quick moment of silence as we pray for our neighbors, we pray for our neighboring communities, we pray for our loved ones who are battling this terrible COVID virus, and as we pray for guidance, understanding, and peace in these difficult times.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Matt.
I really should have let Rabbi Robbie lead us.
I was going to say.
You did a great job. You did a great job.
You know,
That's actually a great lead-in to encouraging everyone to join our interfaith Thanksgiving service on Sunday, 4 o'clock. That's with all of the churches and the synagogues in the area. 4 o'clock Sunday. Go to the First Presbyterian Church website.
You got it. That's great. I'll be there. I realized that it was like, calling for the ball when I got Michael Jordan on the screen.
No. You did fabulous.
All right. Well, again,
glad to know I'm retired. That was good. That was.
Thank you again, everyone, for joining us for this listening session of the Yorktown Coalition on Community Safety and Engagement. As a reminder, this is in response to Executive Order 203 that was passed down by Governor Andrew Cuomo following the murder of George Floyd, amongst other events within our society. We have met several times so far. We have some great guests joining us. I just want to introduce quickly the members of the coalition. We have Tony Reynolds, Jim Poulin, Paul Cirillo, with Rabbi Robbie Weiner, our in-house Michael Jordan. We have Liz Rivera, Peter Lanza, and Rosemary Patio. I'm also joined by our police chief, Robert Noble, and I see we have with us tonight members of the town board, Councilwoman Alice Roker and Councilman Ed Lachterman. And I also see that we have joining us quite a few. I apologize, my screen doesn't hold everyone. We have Dax Armstrong from Yorktown for Justice, one of our coalition community partners. And I'm trying to see if I see we have Councilman Vishnu Patel also with us. And if I haven't recognized her yet, if I did, I'll recognize her twice. And that's our town clerk, Diana Quast, who's been great helping us organize these Zoom meetings. And her office has been great in producing minutes that we will be including in the final report. So again, this is a listening session. This is where the town coalition is looking to hear from members of the public on their experiences and viewpoints of the Yorktown Police Department. I'm going to begin by stating that we have received several pieces of correspondence from the public. Some are signed, some are anonymous, and we also have correspondence from both school superintendents, Dr. Ronald Hatter and Dr. Brendan Lyons. All correspondence has been shared with the coalition, and that correspondence is being taken into consideration by the coalition as we continue to proceed in our deliberations. I don't know if anyone from the coalition wants to speak further on that. Oh, okay. Then having said that, we will begin with our But we will begin with our listening session. I'm going to actually turn it over to our town clerk, Diana Quast, who is going to be letting us know who we're going to be hearing from tonight.
we've had a lot of people request to come on, whether they want to speak or not, I'm not sure of. So I think that we're just going to have to go through the list.
Can we start with the people who requested to speak?
Hold on one second. Zachary, did you want to speak tonight?
Yes, I think me and Miss Abalafia would like to speak, so I'm going to let her start and give her the floor.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Ms. Quast. I appreciate all that you've done to kind of get us registered for this. Really appreciate your correspondence. I want to first kind of thank everyone for having these sessions and being open to having these discussions with community members, the supervisor, the council members. I want to say a particular hello to Rabbi Robert. You bat mitzvahed me. It's been a while, but you look great. You know, my name is Ariana Malafi. I want to start by kind of just quick introduction. I went to Yorktown schools my entire life. I've lived in Yorktown my entire life. I was Senate president in 2012. I graduated high school in 2012. I went to college at the University of Southern California. I have a bachelor's degree in political science. I went to law school at the University of Miami School of Law. I have a JD from the University of Miami with a concentration in social justice and public interest. And I am currently an assistant public defender at the Miami-Dade Public Defender's Office. My job starts in January, and I'm waiting for bar results as of right now. So really where I come from on the policing issue is that when I was in law school, one of the topics that I wrote about was hypervirality of police violence, focusing at that time on cases such as Philando Castile and Eric Gardner. And obviously the recent events really sort of play into that particular area. So one of the things that I would like to kind of speak about is body cams, and just sort of how from my scholarship, from my research, I think that body cams can benefit the officers and the public as well. So I'm going to try to keep it pretty brief, but really one of the things I wanted to start with is, you know, Sir Robert Peel is basically known as the father of policing, and he had 9 principles of policing. And one of his main principles was that the power of police to fulfill functions and duties is dependent on public approval of existence, actions, behavior, and their ability to secure and maintain public respect. And really, body cams are a way to enhance that public approval, facilitate the maintenance of public respect, because they benefit the public and they benefit officers. So I have quite a few statistics here. And, you know, the ones that I would like to start with are the local ones. So Westchester Magazine ran an article in 2016 that noted that Greenburgh, Ossining, and Peekskill police departments all implement body cam programs for their officers. In the first year that Ossining used the cameras, there was a reduction in civilian complaints, which Westchester Magazine noted is a major indicator for public satisfaction with the department. In that same article, the police chief of Peekskill at that time, Eric Johansson, I'm not quite sure if he's still the police chief there, but he noted that body cams help temper civilian behavior. He basically said that when officers interact with civilians, that civilians tend to be on their best behavior if they know that they're on candid camera, as it were, and that can help protect officers. He also noted that they played an important role in the prosecution of cases. The Peekskill Police Department has used body cam footage in DUI prosecutions, resisting arrest cases, and even homicide. And more recently, in the wake of the death of George Floyd, Supervisor, as you mentioned, the Yonkers Police Department just recently agreed to a 90-day trial of body cams. And it does appear that, I believe that trial began in August, which would mean that it would be up right around now. But I believe that their plan is that they are going to attempt to free up the funding to continue to use body cams. So I really wanted to start with those things because, you know, those are our neighbors, right? Greenburgh and Ossining and Peekskill and Yonkers. And those statistics in terms of body cams being useful for prosecutions, tampering down civilian behavior, if a civilian is going to be combative with an officer, protecting officers, and enhancing public trust. Those are statistics that are echoed really sort of throughout the whole country. There's a 2016 global multi-site randomized controlled trial where researchers found that body cams decrease use of force incidents when officers activate the cameras upon arrival at the scene. In 2017, there was a randomized controlled trial with 400 police officers in the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. The research team there found that officers with body-worn cameras generated fewer use of force reports and complaints from civilians, sort of as you saw in Ossining, fewer complaints from civilians compared to officers without body-worn cameras. And also, officers with body-worn cameras issue higher numbers of arrests and citations compared to officers without body-worn cameras. There is another one in another study in Rialto, California, which noted that there were similar decreases in civilian complaints lodged against officers who wore body-worn cameras, as well as decreases in use of force. There's another similar study in Arizona State, fewer incidents of use of force, fewer complaints, higher numbers of citizen complaints resolved in an officer's favor regarding body cams. And you know, one thing that I really want to highlight as well is that there's a 2017 survey from the Pew Research Center, which found that 93% of respondents favored police wearing body cams. Similarly, 2017 survey from Penn State found that 88% of respondents feel more safe around police officers when cops are wearing cameras, right? So what all of these statistics are to say, right? And Zach, I think, has dropped a few of these resources that I've cited because I know I've thrown a lot at you, but I want to be brief and I want to respect your time. So I apologize if it's been a little bit of a resource extravaganza. But really what all these statistics are to say is that body cams facilitate the maintenance of public respect. They keep officers safe and they enhance trust between the officers and the public, right? And I think that, you know, our neighbors are using them and we're seeing good results. And for those reasons, I think that it would be extremely beneficial, again, for the officers, for civilians, that Yorktown also adopt a body-worn camera policy.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Ariana. Really appreciate that. Zach, did you want to say a few words on the matter?
Absolutely. I want to thank Ariana for everything that she said and all the work she did. And I hope you guys will take a look at the links that we've provided for you. I am going to follow her up and come from a little bit of a different perspective, a little background on me. I graduated from Yorktown High School in 2013. I graduated Phi Beta Kappa magna cum laude from Elon University, and I'm currently a Dean's Merit Scholar at Rutgers Law School. So I'm a baby lawyer, as they say. I'm coming to talk to you all as someone who loves where I grew up, someone who cares about where I grew up, someone who knows several of the officers currently serving and many who have come and gone. And I want to contextualize a lot of what Ariana said in Yorktown's specific situation. We're not here to condemn or anything of that ilk of the police department. We think you guys are great. We want to make sure that that work continues. The average cost of a body camera on a police officer is $700 to $800. It's a little more to mitigate that footage, transcribe that footage, archive that footage. The Yorktown Police Department receives between $10 and $11 million of the town budget per year. That's also been increased since 2020, going into 2021, because the new budget preliminarily just came out on the 16th. So we have the great privilege of reviewing that. Supervisor Slater, I'm sure all of the things I'm saying you already know, so I apologize because you already know all of this. What I would really encourage you all to look at is taking the Yonkers instance that Ariana mentioned in the article we posted. That's only a trial run, but they're planning to implement it. The cost of running that body cam program per se, or that service every year, is about $1.2 million. But they have 600 officers and Yorktown has 59. So I want to make sure that that's on everyone's frontal lobe, and when they're thinking about how much this will cost, when you're talking about apportionment of town tax funds, etc. That being said, there are 59 officers, and not all of them are uniform officers, and not all of them need body cams. Not all of them are on patrol at the same time. So when we're talking about cost effectiveness, this is entirely feasible and entirely within the capability of the town budget. Another thing I'd like to point out is body cameras are required for all state police officers. They are required for all county police officers, in addition to the municipalities that Ariana cited. Peekskill, right next door. Ossining, right next door. Greenberg, Yonkers, etc. When Governor Cuomo passed Executive Order 203, he wasn't talking about exceptions. He's talking about every single municipality within the state of New York to take a whole hard look at the police departments, even the best ones like ours, and said, what can we do better? How can we be better? I don't think there's any problem in the Yorktown Police Department. I think that Chief Noble and Supervisor Slater would agree with me. But let's keep it that way, and let's ensure that we're not missing anything by having body cameras on every police officer on patrol, every police officer that makes a stop, every police officer that might be put in a situation, an unsafe situation like they are every day, where they could use the footage to their advantage. We're not talking about executive oversight. We're talking about transparency.
Okay,
Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
Zach,
thank you.
for your time. Ariana, thank you again. Appreciate your comments. Well done. We're going to go to our town clerk, Diana Quast, to see who our next speakers are. Diana, do we have someone else signed up to speak?
That's all I know that have requested to speak. There's several people signed on, and I'm not sure if they're just listening or they'd like to speak.
Well, I'm sure Dax, I'm sure you're here to speak on behalf of YFJ tonight.
No, we have another speaker on behalf of YFJ, but I would love at some point to just make some comments for myself. But Judith, do you want to speak for YFJ?
Yes, actually, I would love to do that. Am I on now?
Judith, you're on. Thanks for joining.
Okay, I'm on. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Judith Stavins. I'm a 25-year resident of Yorktown. My son went through the Yorktown schools. Full disclosure, we're also members of Temple Beth Am. Thank you, Rabbi Robbie. And I'm here tonight as a member of the Yorktown for Justice group, and we've put together some information, and I'm going to read that to you. Our organization brings together our residents and neighbors to work collaboratively towards equity and justice in our community through education, advocacy, and activism. We were specifically invited by Supervisor Slater, thank you, to act as advocates before this coalition. As advocates, we offer the following recommendations to further elevate Yorktown as a model police department. Number one, collaboration with community responders. As Chief Noble has noted during these meetings, his officers are often called upon to respond to social and mental health situations, which are better handled by mental health professionals. The Law Enforcement Action Partnership is a national group of police, prosecutors, judges, corrections officials, and other law enforcement officials advocating for criminal justice and drug policy reforms. That group believes that now is the time to initiate a conversation about a robust alternative 9/11 response that involves trained community responders. And I think we've started doing some of this already in Yorktown with some of the other programs responding to drug situations. There's usually a need to de-escalate in these situations, and we know, our officers are really excellent at that. Sometimes bringing an officer with a weapon can be a liability. A person with a mental health disability or someone who is reacting in an irrational manner can result in a tragedy. Several of the tragic deaths we've seen this year not here in our town, might not have occurred if an unarmed community responder was sent and was successful. We don't ever want to see something like that happen in Yorktown, and we're hoping to, that we will seek to create a program where community responders trained in mental health issues can be called upon. It could be in partnership with neighboring towns or with the county. That's point number one. Point number two, I am actually not even going to go through because Ariana Abalafa and Zachary Bosian, excuse me if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, have pretty much covered it. We agree with everything they say about body cams, both for the benefit of the community and for the benefit and safety of our officers. So that's point number two. Training priorities. In the current social environment, Yorktown for Justice believes that there should be enhanced training on implicit bias, annually conducted by independent, experienced trainers. Implicit bias reflects societal systemic norms that shape our attitudes towards others, whether it's racial, ethnic, other populations. This is the source of most of the bias-based acts by not just police, but by all of us in our society. Training can provide the tools to adjust automatic patterns of thinking and ultimately eliminate discriminatory behaviors and practices. Where we know the department has an in-house trainer and we don't doubt his abilities. However, we think the addition of an outside trainer would enhance this crucial training for our department. So we're hoping to add more to that. Point number four. We believe that a civilian review board can have a positive impact on the Yorktown Police Department by increasing its credibility and transparency in response to complaints from the public. Currently, oversight is internal among the department's leadership. A complaint needs to be made by a civilian to the police. If there is a need for further action, the town board will be the final arbiter. We believe that there's an inherent problem with this arrangement, and this belief is based in part on our experience in preparing to present information to this coalition. We heard detailed incidents, mostly from Yorktown residents of color, in which they describe what felt to them like abuse of police power here. We're not talking about killings, obviously, major problems like that. This is more on the level of kind of relatively small offenses, now what people refer to as microaggressions, that people of color face daily. Some of the stories involved what sounded like racial profiling. However, none of these individuals felt safe enough to come forward and openly tell their stories to this coalition. How then could they be expected to come forward to complain to the police department itself? So it ends up with no complaints, where there actually are some in the community and they're not necessarily being addressed. To be sure, these incidents are a minority of incidents. We're not saying this is pervasive. But, people of color are a minority in this town, but we want to see all of our community members treated the same. And we know that the department strives to do that. In our outreach to the community seeking comment on any interactions with the police, we received a lot of feedback, some of it very angry, from people who felt the police in this town were nothing but wonderful and were wondering why we were questioning them. And that's precisely the point. The majority doesn't always know what's going on with people who are not the majority. They're not walking in their shoes. At the first listening session for this coalition, a young man suggested a civilian review board, and his suggestion was dismissed. But at the same session, people who spoke of the police in laudatory terms were greeted with enthusiasm. Probably because most of the members here have had positive encounters with the police and can't imagine that anybody wouldn't. And again, if that's your experience, that's, what you understand. It's this kind of not seeing the full picture that we would like to expand. People are concerned that they won't be heard. They don't want to go to the people that they think they might be having problems with. We believe that Yorktown needs a civilian review board that takes complaints from the public. It'll inspire more trust and faith in the police. It obviously doesn't need to be, a full-time position. but we definitely need some conduit outside of the police department for people to make complaints. It will only be better for everyone, is what we believe. And our last point is collection of data about police interventions. In light of the argument we made about the majority may not be able to see or understand what happens to the minority, we believe Yorktown would benefit from having statistics on routine traffic stops and other police interactions, specifically as it relates to race and other protected categories. Chief, you stated that you started to collect such data in 4 instances, which is great. We're hoping to see that expanded for all interactions. The data can reveal trends in who the police department is interacting with, what kind of outcomes, and whether it's close to the demographics of the town. Those are our points. The members of Yorktown for Justice commit to working with the police and the board to bring positive change to the Yorktown Police Department, adjustment to the police department, as well as other institutions, including our schools. We will work in a collaborative manner to find and apply for funds to enhance the security and safety of all of our residents, including the youth and racial and ethnic minorities, LGBTQ people, and truly make Yorktown a town which will attract young people and businesses, both small and large. It's been said that crisis can bring opportunities that can benefit all. We love Yorktown. We all do, and we genuinely believe it can be a model for the future. And we thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That was great. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Diana, do we have anybody raise their hand? If anyone wants to speak who has not signed up, you can raise your hand right on your if you're using Zoom, you can raise it right on Zoom. We can see it and we'll call you out. I know Dax, you said that you wanted to say a few words as Dax Armstrong, no problem, resident citizen of Yorktown. I don't know if you want to take time now to give us your thoughts.
I was actually thinking about the prior meetings and I see we have more people and new faces. I wanted to give people the opportunity to speak. I feel like I speak a lot. So I'd like to defer a little longer just to give people an opportunity. But I do want to speak at some point.
No problem. I see we've got Steve Ronco from the DA's office joining us again. We appreciate it.
Oh, sorry I'm late.
No problem.
I was over in Peak Skills meeting.
No problem. There's somebody on from the Legal Aid Society? I think I see someone's trying to, are you on mute? I'm sorry.
I'm not very high tech, but I'm on. Hi.
Oh,
yes.
perfect. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. This is Mary Pat Long, L-O-N-G, and I work for the Legal Aid Society. Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. These police officers know me. I cover Yorktown, and I have to say 2 things. This woman who just spoke, I hope I say your name right, Judith Stevanis. I thought you did an amazing job. I thought everything you said was spot on. And I've worked in Yorktown with the police department for I don't know how many years, probably 20 years. And there's lots of good guys in that department. I have lots of positive experiences. But I know there's always room for improvement. And what you spoke about before about systemic racism and bias, you don't know what, it's funny because I'm white, obviously, you can see that. I'm 63 and I'm white. And my experience, I mean, I only am, how do I say this? I'm only the life experiences that I've had and those that I've heard about from my clients. And life is not the same. Life is not the same if you're 63 and white and female. I could probably drive with no license plate and no insurance. And, people look, I just look different. Anyway, I just know that we don't all walk in the same shoes. And I really love what this committee is doing. And I really respect everybody for being on this. And Steve Ronco and I work together all the time. He knows that I'm very committed to the work that he does, and I'm very committed to the work that I do. And we want to make our community better and safer and stronger. So I think this is a great committee.
Mary Pat, thank you. We really do appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us.
Thank you, sir. I had a flood today. That's why I'm a little bit late. We had a flood in our laundry room. So, but I really just think this is a great committee. I really love the work you've put together.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. It's been a great collaboration with lots of members of our community, as you can see. I don't know if you have anything specific, because since you've been so involved for the last 20 years, is there anything specific to your police department that you want to just raise with the coalition?
I love what I heard a moment ago about the mental health component of law enforcement. I think that's big.
Okay.
I think that's big. So many of my clients suffer from mental health issues, and they react to force differently than I might act. I actually did get stopped by a police officer in Harrison once when my father was dying, and I cut off a police officer right by the police station. And when he pulled me over, I was hysterical, and he thought I was a lunatic, and he had every reason for thinking that I was a lunatic, and he was harsh with me. And it was kind of a good experience for me to see what it's like to have a police officer be harsh. But he thought he had what do they call them, an EDP? An emotionally disturbed, because he kind of did have an EDP. But he was a little harsh. And I think it was a very good experience for me to realize that, he must have had his experiences and I had my experiences. And we need to know how the other person, how do I say it, walk in another person's shoes.
Absolutely.
So I think that's what's so great about this experience.
Couldn't agree with you more, and I've made similar comments to what you made. I grew up in this town, just like Zach and Ariana, and all I can tell you, my experiences are based off of, frankly, what I look like. And
right.
Different than other people. So it's important for us to hear some of those
other voices.
Perspectives. Yes. I like to use the word perspective, something that Councilwoman Roker and I have spoken about in the past, and right. Understanding those perspectives. We really do appreciate you joining us tonight. It's fantastic to have you here.
Thank you.
Awesome. So if there's anyone else who wants to speak, if you can just pop up the hand icon, I'm going to do my best, and with Diana, our town clerk, we'll do our best to scan to see if there's any other tiles that have a hand up. I know that we've got Dax Armstrong warming up in the bullpen here for us.
I had a question on my hand up. I didn't know if you saw it yet.
I did not. I'm sorry. Can you give us your name for the record?
Sure. It's John Delvecchio.
John, how you doing?
Good. How's it going? So I missed the first part of what Judith said, and I do agree with mental health components, which was just being spoke about. Really important. And I, at some point, I don't know how it works out or how Yorktown does the funding for that, but I think seeking additional funding in the budgets for maybe someone to work alongside with the police department. They're two separate jobs, or two completely separate jobs.
Right.
But someone maybe in the back end working along with the police department. Obviously, police officer does one job, mental health professional does another job. So not one doing the other job. It's just basically supplementing what we have. I think that's a great idea. The other part I had more was a question. Was there? I just heard something about racial profiling or something in Yorktown where people were afraid to come forward. Was that actual cases, or was that just basically based off of hearsay or something? Someone said something.
Those were comments that we've received tonight from members of Yorktown for Justice.
Okay. I was just curious because I missed the first part of what was said. That was it. That's all I want to add. But
okay.
Thank you,
John. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Are there folks who want to say a few words, give us some feedback, discuss our police department or their interactions with our police department, the perception of our police department?
May I just add one thing?
Yes.
I think the Yorktown police do wear a hat, the law enforcement hat, and then the I don't want to say mental health hat, but when they stop somebody, they have to make an assessment pretty quickly about whether the person does have psychiatric issues and mental health issues. So they do need some training. It's a life and death matter. If they stop somebody, they do need to be able to make an assessment. You can't always have a social worker, at your elbow. So the training is vital for their safety, not just for it's for everybody's benefit. Everybody's benefit for them to have training on how to assess.
Couldn't agree more. And Chief Noble last week provided a very in-depth presentation on all the training that our police officers receive on an annual basis. EDP was one of those, was just one component
Right.
that they do receive that we talked about.
I'm sorry I missed it. I just got this invitation today from my colleague Sherry Wallach. I'm very sorry I missed
No,
earlier
it's okay.
meetings.
Yeah, no, it's okay. And all of our, just, all of our videos and recordings of our meetings are all up on the CCSE website.
CCSE, thank you.
Right on the town's webpage. So anyone who can't make a meeting or wants to hear what we've been talking about, they're able to access that at any point in time, including all of Chief Noble's PowerPoint presentations as well. Those are all readily accessible and publicly available.
Thank you.
Well, absolutely. And of course, we encourage anyone to take a look and continue to provide feedback to us as to what they see, and any way that I think we're all saying the same thing, that we can take a great department and make it even better. We're always open to those suggestions. Is there anyone else other than Dax who wants to say a few words tonight? Dax, you may be up, man.
No, thanks. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight? Supervisor Slater, I had a couple of questions that I wasn't clear on. There's a funding source attached to EO 203, isn't there?
So by not complying with EO 203, there is DCJS money that the state would then withhold.
Okay, so it's a penalty, but they're not providing any funds for.
Right. So the state is requiring. Bless you. The state is. No, you're on mute, but I saw you. Sorry, bad. It's a habit of mine. The state is requiring all municipalities with a police department or a police force to go through this. And so if they choose not to, then it would withhold state funds. So it's not that they're offering state funds for programs. I wish.
Right. And is this going to be our last listening session?
Well, I know that the coalition is going to meet next month after Thanksgiving, and we're going to have that conversation to see if we feel that another listening session is warranted.
Okay. So some other housekeeping before I make my statements. The team wanted me to remind you that there were some letters sent in, and they would respectfully request that some of those be read. I believe some are anonymous, some are named.
The coalition has reviewed all the letters. We have received letters that were signed. We've received letters from some of our community partners, including the Central School District. We've received letters from individuals who requested to remain confidential. We've been advised, frankly, by our attorney that the best course of action is instead of a case-by-case basis, because it muddies the waters, that it's better to be in all or nothing category. So the coalition is very much taking into consideration all the correspondence. They have every letter that we've received, every email that we've received. And rather than picking and choosing which ones we read publicly, the coalition believes it's best to acknowledge them. We have them. We recognize them.
Well, then for the record, if we have letters that we have permission to request to be read, would you read those for the record?
The letters that we have are not signed by individuals.
Okay.
So the coalition felt that it wasn't proper to read those publicly, since they are not signed by individuals. The letters that I know which letters you're referring to, Dax, and I have them right here. But one is not signed, and the second is signed by a proud Yorktowner. And for those reasons, the coalition did not feel. Again, we're not reading the signed letters either, but especially since those are unsigned letters. But we have them. We acknowledge them. The coalition has them in their possession. We've processed them, and we will most definitely take them into consideration as we move forward.
I'm sorry, I really want to interrupt just really quick. you're not reading them. Why?
The letters are unsigned.
And why are you not reading them? Because they're unsigned?
We have our town attorney who can explain to you what his legal advice was to us.
I just want to clarify. Thank you.
I mean, there are a variety of reasons, but ultimately the better course is to take a clean position with respect to whether the letters are going to be read or not, and that's what the commission has done.
Dax? Anything
Okay. And just a clarifying point, and that was for the unsigned letters. And what about the letters that were signed by community members?
Again, the coalition has taken the position that since we aren't reading the unsigned, we did not feel it was fair to read the signed as well.
Okay.
So we're all correspondence has been circulated to the coalition. They have them all. They're most definitely part of the process. They'll be part of the record, and that's the coalition's. That was the decision of the coalition.
Okay. I just wanted to thank everyone for all the work that you've put in and the time. I know we've all done long hours. I'm exhausted. So I want to acknowledge everyone and thank everyone. There was a lot of great points that were brought up tonight, and I think that they mirrored some of the things that I had previously suggested, and that's why I wanted to defer to others. But I'll just reinforce, and support some of the statements that were made tonight, specifically body cameras, which I think have a lot of merit and do protect and support both sides of the conversation. And I was actually speaking to one of our officers, one of our Yorktown officers, and we had a nice conversation. And he actually, I was surprised to hear his views on all of this, but he was actually very supportive of the body cameras. He said he thought it was a great idea, and he gave me a really great idea, and I wanted to share that with the coalition. There are only 4 officers on duty at any given time. So you really wouldn't have to pay to outfit 50 officers simultaneously. You would only need 4 or maybe 5 body cameras to really start a program. You could have an auxiliary body cam. You can have 4 that the officers, I know I'm from talking to the officers a lot, I know that they sign out the tasers. So the tasers aren't particularly their own taser. They sign them out on a daily basis. They could sign out the body cameras in a very similar fashion. They go on duty, they sign it out, they bring it back when they're off, they sign it back in, and then the next officer can sign it out. And I think that that's a way to have the program and also be efficient, with funds and with money. And I think, as you see the merits of the program, every year you can add on additional cameras. So just something to present to the coalition to think of moving forward. I do support a civilian complaint board for all of the reasons that were shared. I know that there are people that don't feel comfortable coming forward for a myriad of reasons. As a counselor, I see plenty of students on a daily basis that deal with, implicit bias and being made to feel uncomfortable for their gender, for their race, for their sexual orientation, and they suffer in silence. I see students that deal with mental health issues and suffer in silence. So I'm sure if our high schoolers are doing that, they're growing into adults and they're, repeating very similar behaviors. So I would ask you to really take those types of things into consideration. I, as a Black man, have been harassed by police on numerous occasions. I've never gone to report it. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. So I would just want you to keep that in mind. And to to Miss Pat, the attorney. I'm sorry, I messed your name up because I'm trying to read it off of the screen. But I just
it's not written properly. It's Mary Pat, like Mary
Mary
Patricia.
Pat.
Mary Pat. There's a Y missing. But
Okay.
I love what you're saying. I'm following you 100%.
Thank you so much. And to your point, I just wanted to support something that you said. You have clients that are scared, that have, they're uneasy around police. I have to say, I personally am as well. I don't feel in danger if I were to be stopped by the Yorktown PD, but that doesn't mean I don't feel uncomfortable if I'm stopped by the Yorktown PD. And for that type of reason, I have always kept an expired license in my vehicle. And people say, why would you keep an expired license in your vehicle? So if I forget my wallet and I get pulled over, I don't end up in the police precinct arrested. That's why. Because I know that if I am pulled over without ID, I'm going to jail. That may not be the case for everyone, but I'm pretty sure it's the case for me. So it's not something that I openly share, but I share it with you today because it's relevant to the conversation and to what we're talking about. And we should be sensitive to those that suffer in silence, regardless of what they're suffering from and with. Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
Dak.
you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak for before the coalition? I don't know if anyone's reached out to Diana Quast, our town clerk, to raise their hand. Diana, do we have anybody else signed up that you're aware of?
Zach has his hand up. That's all I can see.
I interrupted rudely before, so I'll lower it. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, if there are no one else who wants to speak, again, I want to thank the coalition for their time and their efforts. I want to thank our town clerk, Diana Quast, for her continued efforts to help with the process. Thank you to our chief, Robert Noble, for being here, and to all of our participants. It's another great conversation. And our next meeting is scheduled for December. And that'll be a work session meeting for the coalition to deliberate on the things that we've heard tonight.
Do we have a date yet, Mr. Supervisor?
I know that it's part of the schedule, and honestly, I'm blanking on it off the top of my head. Off the top of my head, I apologize, but we'll definitely make sure the coalition members know, and we'll publicize it as well. I think it's probably on the community calendar, and I apologize for not having that readily available at my fingertips.
Okay.
And will YFJ be invited to that also?
It'll be the same type of work session that we've had in the past. So yes.
Excellent.
Community
Thank you so much.
Be part of that. You're welcome, Dax. Okay, with that being said, we again appreciate everyone's time. Wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving, a very safe Thanksgiving.
Likewise, yep.
And we will talk to everyone in December.
Very good. Thank you. Thank
Thanks
you
so
all.
much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.